The Nighthawk. The legendary angular aviation sensation. This aircraft was fascinating as a kid, and it definitely remains enchanting. It holds a spell over the aviation enthusiasts. Hey guys, it's model making time, and we're back today looking at this, the F-117 Nighthawk from Revell. The history of this plane is a little intense, so we'll just do a crash course today before we go into kitstery, and then we'll have a look at the build itself, and well, it turned out quite well even if I do say so myself. But before we do that, make sure you head down below and hit that subscribe button, and give the video a like and a thumbs up too. And leave a comment down below, what was your first memory of this aircraft? I know for me it was at RIA, but what was yours? And if you want to join a lovely community of model makers, make sure to join my Discord. The link is in the description below. That is a lovely community of model makers where you can share your progress and celebrate your successes together. Positivity encouraged. Without further ado then, let's go into the history. This aircraft actually has its origins all the way back before World War II, when Robert Watt was showing what reduced cross-sections for objects would look like on radar to help evade detection. For potentially quite obvious reasons, it wasn't really taken up until much later. It wasn't until the Vietnam War era where this became a resurged idea. As the Iron Curtain's influence spread and SAM sites went with it, the need for something that could evade detection became a lot more prominent. Originally known as Have Blue, this proof of concept that something could have a reduced radar cross-section first flew in December of 1977. The aircraft itself was lost, however, it did prove to be a success. Something was going to happen from this. 11 months later, the decision was made to make the F-117 official. It was going to be a production aircraft. Something new for the time, the aircraft did use computer controls in order to maintain stability. This was an aircraft like nothing we'd ever seen before, and probably will never see again, but it definitely needed that advanced avionics that we didn't have prior to the invention of the computer, or at least an onboard computer. The redeveloped version had a lot of aesthetic differences, and now sported its black radar-absorbing material look, flying for the first time in 1981. Its angular, space-like shape spread like wildfire in public media, but also among aviation enthusiasts, with the F-19 an aircraft that actually has widespread replication in toys and models alike, ending up being what people thought this aircraft was. The aircraft was always denied. No one really knew what it was, and that just kept adding fuel to the fire of the F-19 rumour. However, on the 10th of November 1988, the aircraft became officially known. This was the Nighthawk. The aircraft remained in service for quite a long time, seeing through both Gulf Wars, the conflict in Yugoslavia, or the former Yugoslavian Republic, and it still served until aircraft like the F-22 could replace it. And in fact, there are actually some that are still flying, although the type is being phased out. It's expected that the aircraft will be completely gone by the mid-2030s, and the chances of most of us seeing these fly is now becoming increasingly slim. I feel remarkably lucky that when I was a child first getting into aviation, I got to see one of these fly and see one in person, something that was really unheard of back in the day, and I guess still now. And that's another reason why modelling is so important, to help preserve this area of history and help people get out close with something they might never see. On that note, let's have a look at where this particular model came from, shall we? This model was released by Revell in 1992 and then released again in 1994, which is the boxing I have. Personally, I think it's the coolest of the artworks. It was a much more recent release back in 2018, although this is still 6 years ago at this point. I did hear from Model Minutes, who's already made this aircraft, that this was actually part of a line of Revell model kits that were originally just going to be sort of clicked together. And as we go through the build, hopefully you'll start to understand why that's probably the case. And if you haven't seen Model Minutes' video, make sure to go check it out, because it is great. But obviously watch my one first. Now there are millions of other F-117 releases, including special versions that had different things painted on the bottom, including the famous United States flag artwork that was on the bottom of the F-117 at its sort of end of life, or end of active service life. There's been boxings from Italeri, from Airfix to Hasegawa. There's just a lot of them out there. So I'm not really going to go through all of them in the list today, but just be aware there are a lot of them for you to go for, and they all have slightly different skill levels, but this is definitely the most entry level out of all of them. And I think it's a really good entry level kit because it's all black, so if you wanted to just make it without painting it, quite frankly, you probably could. I chose not to do that though, and before we go into like the unboxing, I figured I'd just explain to you why I chose to do this kit. First of all, Halloween, on brand, but also because I just really wanted to try something a bit different. As I've been getting used to using my airbrushes, and again thanks to Gallery and Fender for sending me both airbrushes and a compressor, I have been trying to understand what is best for me, like in terms of both paints I'm using, techniques I'm using, airbrushes I'm using. And one of the things that have always fascinated me is how you paint a single colour object without it looking like a single colour. Now I think I've done that on this, and hopefully when you see the grand reveal shots, you'll really think that too. But it's really an interesting subject. But first of all, let's go and have a look at the unboxing, shall we? And here it is, the F-117A Nighthawk, always known as the stealth fighter, even though it is not a fighter. This boxing is nice, it's got a lot of descriptors of what's in the kit, so like the pictures of the finished build and then some of the other marketing on there. It's an older boxing, it doesn't say when the kit was originally from, but that's standard for Revell, but hopefully something that will change in the future. But yeah, I do enjoy this boxing. It's really simple, I mean, just like that, that's it. That is the entire kit. How simple is this? And it's quite a big kit really as well. This is quite a large aircraft, so when you actually get it all together, it's quite impressive how few the part count is. But you can see how drastic these angles are all throughout the aircraft. Now, obviously the plastic itself is glossy, that's quite normal, but if you really wanted to, I guess you could just do this as like a snap together kit and maybe either buy some matte black paint, like you could literally buy some from like any like cheap shop I guess, or you could just put some matte varnish over it. I won't be doing that, I will be doing it as a like quote unquote model kit, but it's nice that you have the opportunity to just do it as a really simple, easy put together kit, because they are few and far between. The only other one I've done is sort of Zvezda's Yak. I think I did Yak 3, and that was really interesting. But I just can't get over the angles on this kit, it just looks amazing. Like, it's just, there's just so much to it, and I love how everything just looks slightly different when it reflects differently, and that's the effect I want to go for when I do the painting as well. But overall, the detail on this kit, considering its age and that this is designed as a simple kit, I'd say the detail's pretty good. Like, relatively speaking, you know, a much more severe kit is going to have a lot more detail, but not bad for what it is. And as you saw there, the transparency is not bad. The decals have somehow survived, which I'm kind of impressed by. The instructions also are, well, again, considering the age, pretty good actually. I didn't really find any of these difficult to follow. I don't think I got anything really wrong during the course of the construction of this. I think there's a few, like, well, there's not enough options, I guess, is what I'm meaning to say. Like, it would be nice if it really clearly told you how to do it with, like, the landing bay closed, or you could have it open, or landing gear up, or landing gear down, rather than having to make the amendments yourself. But, like, overall, considering what this is, really nice kit, and the black and white instructions for once are not an issue, considering this aircraft in these schemes is just black. So, yeah. Now we've looked inside the box, let's go into the construction. As I said, this is definitely an experiment in painting something all black without it looking just solid black. And I think you'll definitely see the difference from when I do the first initial coats to it then like starting to look like it has a bit more character, a bit more shape. I bought multiple different blacks from Life Colour for this. I don't know exactly which ones I ended up using. I'll try and link them in the description as of the video as I go, but it definitely helped me learn that there aren't just like one or two shades of black. I now own like 6 or 7. So let's go into the construction, shall we?
Construction of this kit is really quite straightforward, but I ran into some issues. For whatever reason, I just couldn't get the wings to stay together. And I left this in here because I think it's important to show the errors or the mistakes or the struggles we had when making models, and for whatever reason just putting the wings together was the hardest bit of the entire kit, which is kind of hilarious. Yeah, it just couldn't fit. I think this is probably just because it was designed to sort of push together rather than glue together. That's my assumption. I ended up having to just do a lot of sort of filing and just trying to make sure it fit, and then I put in some like Tamiya extra thin in the gap, but it just would not go together. After I got the first one done, I got the second one done much easier. I didn't get like glue everywhere like I did on the first one. Again, for me, not an issue because I'm going to repaint the whole thing anyway and varnish the whole thing, but yeah. And also, sorry, Mr. Modeler is also sat next to me when I was recording this sort of whole section, so you might see his hand just pop in and out of frame as we're sharing some equipment. But yeah, I ended up getting this one done much, much easier. Once this bit was done though, it was time to move on to the sort of main body of the aircraft and the cockpit. But before I actually got stuff together, I thought I would just snap it all together and see how it looked. Just kind of assuming that I would be able to unslap it all, which, spoiler, was easy to do. Like, I didn't have any issues with it, but it's one of the kits where dry fitting can lead to some issues sometimes if it does get sort of stuck in place. Again, not an issue for me. I ended up doing the whole thing and just seeing how it fit to make sure that I could try and get as nice a fit as possible. This did lead to me sanding down a few more parts, again, just to make sure it looked really nice. I know it looks really messy now just because it's on the black plastic, but I promise you it will look nice in the end. And already we have an almost complete aircraft. And in fact, if you wanted to, especially if you were a younger person who didn't really want to, I guess, do much modelling but wanted just an F-117 to play with that you built yourself, then you could pretty much just glue this together or even stick it together and it's done. And it'd be great if you wanted to, like, I don't know, blow one up as part of like a diorama or like a playtime, because I mean, it's so easy to put that together too. Now, I did paint the pilot inside mine. I didn't get a lot of good footage of this, unfortunately. This was very early into me getting my new camera, and unfortunately I didn't quite get the focus right. But I thought I would show you that, yes, I did actually paint the pilot this time. And in the end, he didn't look too bad. It was definitely not my best pilot, but he ended up fitting into the cockpit. And you can see there's a little hole in the seat where you just sort of prod him through, and he sits in there really nicely. Gave him some touch-ups whilst he was in the seat. That's the sort of the gloves I'm doing. I just sort of used references from sort of interviews with F-117 pilots I saw online and like just general Googling, nothing specific, but yeah, I'm just using, this is actually a life colour brush actually. I bought a life colour brush when I ordered my latest round of paint. And then there is a little decal that goes onto the control panel itself. I'm using, of course, Microsol and Microset to make sure I get a really nice finish on this, and it's a really vibrant sort of control panel. The decal does a really good job. I don't know who they use for this, but it's really, really vibrant and it just pops. It looks lush. Then it was the glass part, the canopy glass, and I ended up putting this in and then thinking, oh, I'll take it back out and then I'll put it in at the end. But actually, because it goes on the inside rather than the outside like on a traditional model kit, you kind of have to just put it in. And it really, really scared me because, you know, I know the pilot's in there and it looks really nice, but if you screw up the transparency, then the whole model kit can feel somewhat ruined. I know on this one you could probably paint it black and it would be fine, but I want to be able to see the pilot. I was thinking about whether or not I wanted to do like the oil slick sort of look on the glass, the anti-reflective coating, but I ended up not doing that. think the main thing to do with that is just really thin inks, but I just didn't feel confident doing it, so I didn't. I left it clear, but we'll see how I did the sort of canopy later. It was then time to glue the overall fuselage together. Again, we're already at a point where the aircraft is nearly complete. We haven't touched the bottom of the aircraft, of course. We do have our entire landing bay assembly, and we do have to put the tail bit in, but that is literally one piece rather than two. It's just one bit that clips into the back of the aircraft. I am using quite a lot of glue, mainly just because I want to make sure that it all stays together really nicely. Although this kit will pretty much just clip together, I just want to make it secure because I really wanted to do a good job on this kit. As usual, my Tamiya tape comes out clutch in order to make sure I can get the models secured together. I know most people use clips. I have never really been great with clips, and I don't have any currently. I want to try and avoid buying any that will just break really easily, because I found that has been quite commonly the case, because I'm trying to be, you know, quite, I don't know, a bit more responsible in sort of the stuff I buy these days. So if anyone can recommend me some clamps that are like soft enough, they're not going to damage the plastic, but are well lasting, so they're not going to break really easily, please let me know in the comments below. Of course, we also have to mask up the canopy. I am of course using Vallejo masking fluid. It's essentially like the same as you would use on like your nails or on your face, as far as I understand. Not that you should use this one because it isn't formulated for that, but it's just sort of I think it's like a latex silicone putty. That's probably completely wrong, but whatever, you know the sort of substance I mean, and you just paint it on, it dries, and I go on quite thick with mine. Now, I have learned when I did my Jet Promise video not to leave it on for like a month, because then it doesn't go off very well, but you can use alcohol to get rid of it. In this instance, I was planning to do the whole thing really basically in like 1 or 2 sittings, so it wasn't really much of a concern, and it ended up coming off really nicely, so yeah, not a worry. For priming this bad boy, I went with Life Colours Panzer Grey. Now, I ended up actually using grey as one of the main colours. Now, I said earlier in the video, this was a whole plan for me to do a model that is black without being just black, and I had watched a lot of videos on how to do this, and most of them basically said don't paint your model black, paint it grey, and then shade everything in, and that was the plan I was going for. Now, I did film a segment where I did a little experiment on cardboard, but the footage kind of looked really bad, so I've kind of not gone for it. I didn't film me doing the entire top side of the aircraft, but I did film me doing the bottom, so you'll be able to see me do the technique, and I think it comes out really well. Now, the main reasons for this is if you paint black or just shades of black, it's just really, really dark. And on really small models, it's quite hard to see the detail or the distinguishment between different areas. It also means that the severe angles you have on this aircraft just get diminished by the light swallowing everything up, which of course is how the real aircraft works, but we don't want that. We want to kind of exaggerate a little bit just to make sure that we get a really nice finish. So what I ended up deciding to do was using this, which is my Gallery Mobius. Again, not sponsored, but they gave me it, and I just want to be like, hey, I am using this Gallery, don't worry, I really love this airbrush and I will be using it going forward, like, I love it so much. Basically, learning to use this, I was like, I only need to do 2 things on this. Prime it, and then paint it. The priming went surprisingly well, but after I primed it, I wasn't really sure what to do. Now, I'm using Life Colours NATO Black, and I'm just going on in areas where I feel it might be darker, and leaving bits that I think might get more worn or might just naturally have like a bit more wear to them. I don't really know. I'm just doing it off like a vibe. This is kind of like pre-shading, but the reverse of that. I'm adding on a darker colour to try and add some texture, I guess, to the aircraft. Now on most aircraft it's quite easy to see where it would happen. Normally it's around the engines or where there's sort of gun ports or any sort of moving surfaces, but on this it's just such a weird shape for an aircraft that I just kind of went with a vibe. I darkened all of the edges to try and give it sort of the middle of the panels having like a gradient almost, and you can see that effect here. When the paint's wet it looks, I guess, less uniform, but as the paint dries it really starts to blend together, as you can see on the top here where I've already done the whole effect. The bit I've left most grey is by the engines, because I naturally assumed these would probably be some of the most worn parts, but I did the leading edges of the wings in a darker colour, the black, and then sort of left the middles as the grey. Now, is this the most realistic thing? Probably not, but to me it felt like the right thing to do. What you can see me doing here as well is going over the whole thing with a really thin layer of just black. Now the reason for that, again, was just to try and tie everything together a little bit. I'm doing the same here as well, and again it's just to try and tie things together and make sure that nothing looks like just there is a solid black line, but each time it looks like, you know, a controlled gradient. Genuinely, I was really impressed with how this turned out. I think it is incredibly difficult to do a solid black aircraft that doesn't look just black. Yet somehow I think I managed it. Now this is one of, again, like my early airbrushing works, but I'm gonna be honest, I was really skeptical about how much difference it would make going from one airbrush to another. Again, this is just me as a complete like amateur on airbrushing, and I've spoken to my friend Plastic Alchemist, and they were like, oh my god, the Mobius, you're gonna notice and feel all the difference. And I was like, will it make that much difference? But yeah, turns out that little price jump there is makes quite a lot of difference. So if you are looking to buy one, although I think the base level ones are really good, it's a world apart, but like you can still get a great result with the basic one, as I found on my previous models. Landing gear on this kit is extremely simple, as you'd probably expect from a kit like this. It's literally like wheels and then a couple of parts, throw them in, boom, done. It's really, really easy, really, really simple. But at the same time, I tried to make sure that my paint looked really nice on them, because when you have a kit that's just black, well, it means any other parts that are not black stand out a lot more. Which I wish I'd done on the weapons, because as you'll see later on, the weapons do not look the best. Of course, this meant I also painted the inside of all the weapon space. From what I could tell, they were a kind of metallic-y colour, but not entirely sure, so I just kind of went with the same, I think it was polished aluminium throughout all of them, or polished silver. I'll make sure I link it, but again, life colour paints all the way through this kit. Unfortunately, I didn't film my full engine colouring, because you'll see in the final shots that there were actually more colours onto this. So actually, I initially did this just with sort of the polished aluminium look, and I went over this with two different colours. I went over it with, I think, burnt. It's like a burnt colour, and then one of them is literally just called exhaust jet, and it adds in this really beautiful like shading to it, I would say, rather than like an entirely new colour. It just looks like it actually has been worn and a bit shaded, and it looks really, really cool. So although you're initially seeing just pure sort of silvery colour, bear in mind this is going to change and it's going to look gorgeous. Once we got the model done, it's time for the decals, and the decals on this kit were really actually quite simple. There's a lot of really small ones, mainly things just saying do not walk, and there's a couple of squad ones. There's some that go inside the weapon bay as well. Now I don't think I actually filmed me putting the weapons in this, and I did mess up the weapons quite badly. They did not go together super well, and I was really tired by the end of me like sort of finishing the model, and I was like, I just want it done. So please don't judge me on the weapons, but the actual plane ended up looking quite nice. Obviously, once I got the decals all finished, I did give the whole thing a once over with some matte varnish, because I mean, you wouldn't have this as a really shiny plane. It's radar absorbing material, which is, from what I can gather, is more of a satiny matte finish, but I only had either like gloss or matte, so I went for a matte finish. One of the most satisfying parts of any model kit is removing all of the masking, and these ones came off quite well. I use a cocktail stick. Actually, I think it's more like a kebab stick, like a wooden one, just to scrape it off, because it's not going to damage the sort of clear plastic below. It will if you really push down on it, but generally it will just sort of move everything, whether it's paint or if it's sort of the latex, well, masking fluidy stuff. Sometimes it'll come off in one big chunk, which is really satisfying. Sometimes it comes off in bits and pieces, but generally it came off really nicely. I'll just let you enjoy the rest of this.
Well, that's it. We've gone all the way through the construction and we now have this. But I want you to see this up close so you can really see if I did a good job. I think I did, but it's time to go and have a look at this, the F-117 Top King of
Search and destroy.
Stealth fighter ready for flyby.
Well, what do you think? I think I did quite a good job, even if I do say so myself. There are definitely some areas where it has room for improvement. Some of the discoloration sections on the bottom in particular, the decals had a bit of silvering, which probably is because I didn't really gloss it properly beforehand. And I mean, the weapons definitely look kind of rubbish. Mainly because I initially didn't think I was going to do them with the weapons like out, and then realised that you kind of have to. So that was a last minute choice. And also, yeah, I broke off the sort of front probe several times, and that definitely didn't help. But overall, I will say I'm quite impressed with it. I really like it. You can definitely, perhaps more so in person, see the different colourings on there. There's definitely sort of areas that are more warm than others, and it definitely helped me understand how to use the airbrush. This was all done with the Gallery Mobius. I have since started using different airbrushes. I have quite a few from Gallery at this point, to be honest, but I also have one from Fender, which I found is also quite good, mainly for just sort of like larger areas, but I really love the Mobius for the control it gives. Again, not sponsored at all, but they did supply me the airbrush for free. And I really enjoyed it. This was the first thing I think I did like in one sitting, because it's such a simple model. And if you are looking for something just to do for enjoyment, this is one I really recommend. I did all the decals on it. I did like even like just the small ones, which quite often I leave a lot of them off because I'm quite lazy. I don't know. I just really enjoyed this. And considering this kit itself is like 30 years old, she holds up. And this would be great for a new modeler. It'd be great for someone who, you know, likes aircraft and you want to get into the hobby. I guess one of the other things is these simple kits are kind of like how Airfix does their like new starter sets. And I'm not saying Revell should definitely copy Airfix and do something very similar, but I am saying that if they were to release a range of simple kits like this that are really easy to put together and sell them as like entry-level kits, I would definitely be in support of that. I mean, like, lots of model kit manufacturers do it. Zvezda has their click together range, Airfix has their starter set range. I mean, Hella just has basic stuff, as does Italeri. But Revell, take note, this would be a great one. So yeah, I really do recommend this kit in terms of like buy or fly. 100% buy this. It tends to be quite cheap too. I bought mine at the Blue Lamp model show for like a tenner. Honestly, I got more than a tenner's worth of entertainment out of this. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I often see them for about that price. I wouldn't pay like £20 for it. Actually, no, maybe I would, because it's quite a good kit. I don't know, maybe £20 is like the highest limit if it ever gets really rare, but I don't see that happening because it's been released so many times. But I mean, I guess that's testament to the kit, right? The fact that I wasn't even sure whether I would pay that much more for it. Because normally I'm just like, hard no. But this, like, even though it's really simple, yeah, really nice kit. The only thing I will say though is that I really regret not getting the US flag version on the bottom. I genuinely did contemplate just doing that by hand. And then I was like, no, this is kind of like just a mojo build, one to sort of, you know, just get you going a little bit. So I decided not to do that, but maybe next time, hey? Thank you so much for being here. I promise I've not cast a spell on you, but I know you're compelled to go down and hit the subscribe button and also hit the like as well. Drop me a comment down below of what you think of this and if you think these really simple model kits should come back, because they're kind of like how Airfix are doing their starter sets nowadays, and I really like them. If you want to join a lovely community of model makers like yourself, I know you are a lovely one, then make sure to join my Discord. The link is in the description. It is just a really positive and lovely community where you can build models together, share your progress and share your completed builds and just geek out about aviation, baby. Again, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next video, which I guess is Telford. See you later. Bye!
Thanks so much to my channel members. A special shout out goes to my advanced kit level subscribers, including Bob and Genevieve Albridge, David Barber, Taggers365, Jeff's Dioramas, Iron Duke, and my two longest advanced kit level subscribers, Crazy Loacher and Explosive Water. Still want to give a shout out to my starter kit level members. You guys help keep the channel going along with the advanced kit level subscribers. You're all incredible and I couldn't do this without you, so thank you all so much. If you've liked what you've seen here today, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you want to see what YouTube has picked out just for you, well, there's a recommended video here, just for you.